The morning was quiet, the street calm, and the world ordinary, until a single envelope changed everything. Daniel, an ordinary man with no fame, no power, and no family close to him, found it waiting in his mailbox. The paper looked official, the seal pressed deep into the corner. The words on the front written in bold government notice for immediate compliance. His first thought was simple. Maybe it's about taxes, maybe a mistake. But when he tore the envelope open, his eyes froze on the words inside. The letter read, "You have been selected for the National Integration Program. You are hereby assigned government-issued wives. You are expected to accept this duty without refusal. They will arrive today." Daniel's hands trembled as he reread it. Wives? Assigned? The government? It sounded like a joke, some twisted prank. But the paper felt real, the ink heavy and sharp. The warning at the bottom clear. Failure to comply will result in arrest. He sat down on the couch, staring at the walls of his small house. It was just another Tuesday, and yet the world had suddenly flipped upside down. The sound of his neighbor mowing the lawn outside felt too normal compared to the storm now spinning inside his head. What kind of program is this? He thought, what kind of wives? And why me? He was no soldier, no hero, just a man who worked 9 to 5 and lived a quiet life. Still, the letter in his hand was real, and the words had the weight of authority. Hours passed slowly, and every knock or sound outside made his heart pound. He tried to convince himself it was nonsense, maybe a scam, maybe fake. But deep down something told him it was not. The government didn't make mistakes like this, and the seal on the letter was no forgery. By afternoon, Daniel noticed shadows moving outside his window. He pulled the curtain slightly, and what he saw made his stomach twist. 2 black government vehicles parked on the curb, silent and heavy. Men in uniform stepped out, and behind them, shapes tall and strange. The knock on his door was sharp. Too sharp to ignore, Daniel stood frozen. His breath caught in his throat. The knocking came again, harder this time, echoing in his chest. With shaky hands, he opened the door. 2 soldiers stood in front of him, their eyes cold, their posture unshaken. One of them spoke in a flat voice. "Daniel Harper, you have been assigned your government wives. Sign here to confirm delivery." Before Daniel could respond, his eyes shifted past them and froze there. Standing silently in the afternoon sun were 3 alien women. Their eyes glowed faintly, their skin marked with strange, beautiful patterns. They wore plain clothing, but nothing could hide how different they were from anyone he had ever seen. One of them, taller than the others, held a small bag in her hands. Her gaze met Daniel's, and for a brief second, he saw fear behind her glowing eyes. Another kept her head low as if ashamed or frightened. The third one looked straight at him, her voice soft, almost trembling. "Husband?" Daniel's mouth went dry. His heart thundered in his chest. This was no joke, no prank, this was real. The government had sent him wives, and not just wives. Alien wives. His hands refused to sign the paper, his mind screaming questions. Why him? Why now? What did this mean? But the soldier pushed the pen into his hand, his tone sharp. "Sign, citizen. The program is mandatory." Daniel looked again at the women, their faces mixed with fear, obedience, and something else he couldn't name. A deep silence stretched between them, the kind of silence that carried heavy chains. When he finally scribbled his name, the soldier nodded, collected the form, and left without another word. The vehicles drove away, leaving Daniel alone on his doorstep. 3 alien women standing in his yard. The neighbors peeked from behind their curtains, whispering. Daniel felt the weight of every eye on the street pressing into him. But louder than the whispers, louder than the hum of cars, was a voice inside his head, a voice saying, "This is the beginning of something dangerous." The alien women stepped inside his house slowly, their movements careful, almost trained. They placed their bags down. Waiting for his command, Daniel closed the door, leaned his back against it, and tried to breathe. His quiet, ordinary life had just shattered. The letter was real, the wives were real, and now nothing would ever be the same. He looked at them, and in that silence he felt the storm building. Somewhere deep in his chest he knew this was not about marriage. This was about control, secrets, and chains hidden behind gentle words. And the worst part was simple. He had no idea what would happen next. The house felt heavier than it ever had before. Daniel stood near the door, his back pressed against the wooden frame. While the 3 alien women moved carefully inside, they walked like shadows, silent, obedient, as if every step had been taught and practiced. The taller one placed her bag near the corner of the living room. The second one, smaller and thinner, kept her eyes fixed on the floor. The third one, the one who had whispered husband at the door, now stood closest to him, her glowing eyes studying his every move. Daniel's chest tightened. He had no idea what to say, no idea what to do. The government had dropped these women at his doorstep as if they were objects, as if they were property, and now they looked at him with a strange mixture of fear and expectation. Finally, Daniel forced his voice to work. Do you have names? He asked, his words trembling. The tallest one answered first, her tone soft but steady. I am Solara, she said, her accent heavy, her voice carrying a hidden strength. The second one raised her eyes for a brief second, then whispered, Mira, before lowering her head again. The third one, who stared most boldly, stepped forward slightly and said, Lina. Their names hung in the air like secrets. Daniel repeated them quietly under his breath, as if saying them made the surreal moment more real. The silence grew sharp. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. The hum of the fridge filled the background, but all Daniel could feel was the strange presence of these three women in his small home. Solara, the tall one, finally spoke again. We were told this is our new home, you are our husband. We must serve. The words felt wrong, cold, rehearsed, like something forced into her mouth by someone else. Daniel frowned, shaking his head. Serve? No, that's not how this works, he said, his voice firmer now. But the three of them looked at him with confusion, as if they did not understand anything except orders. Mira clutched her hands together tightly, her small frame trembling. Her eyes darted toward the window. As if afraid someone might be watching, Daniel followed her gaze, and his heart skipped when he saw a faint red light blinking outside. A drone hovered silently in the distance, its lens aimed straight at his house. They were being watched. The government wasn't finished with him, not by a long shot, trying to ease the tension. Daniel motioned toward the couch. Please sit down, he said, his voice calmer this time. The three women obeyed immediately, almost too quickly. Like soldiers following a command, it unsettled him. The way they moved as if they had no choice. He walked to the kitchen, poured water into glasses and brought it to them. When he placed the cups on the table, Lina, the bold one, lifted hers carefully and studied him with sharp eyes. You are different, she whispered, sipping the water slowly. Daniel blinked. Different how? You look at us like people, Lina said, her voice carrying a strange sadness. Solara lowered her eyes, her voice flat. The others before you did not. They treated us as property, as things the program gave them. Mira flinched when she said those words, her trembling growing worse. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. Others before him? How many men had been given alien wives? And what had happened to them? Before he could ask, Mira suddenly spoke, her voice breaking. Please, don't send us back. Her eyes were wide, wet with tears, her hands clutching the edge of the couch. We will do everything you ask, just don't send us back. The weight of her words hit Daniel like a blow. Back? Back where? What had they been through before arriving here? He sat down across from them, his hands gripping his knees. I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to send you back, but I need answers, he said firmly. Why is the government doing this? Why you? Why me? The three exchanged a nervous glance, as if speaking too much could cost them their lives. Solara finally leaned forward, her voice low. We are part of the program. The Integration Act, we were chosen, trained, given to citizens, you were chosen too, we do not know why. Daniel's mind spun. Integration Act? He had heard rumors of secret projects, whispers of alien-human unions, but he had never believed them. Now three living, breathing women sat in his living room, proof of those rumors. Outside, the faint hum of the drone grew louder for a moment, then faded. Daniel realized with cold certainty, everything happening inside this house was being recorded, monitored, judged. The alien women fell quiet again, their glowing eyes flickering with unease. Lina leaned closer, her voice almost too soft to hear. If you treat us kindly, they will punish you. If you treat us cruelly, they will reward you. That is how the program works. Daniel's chest tightened, his stomach twisted. The government didn't just want to control aliens, they wanted to test humans. And he was now part of their sick experiment. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in. Solara's steady gaze, Mira's trembling silence, Lina's piercing eyes, each one carried a story of pain. Daniel looked at them, then at the shadow of the drone outside. He realized one terrifying truth. His life was no longer his own. The wives had arrived, but they weren't free. And if he wanted to survive and protect them, he would have to make a choice soon. A choice that could cost him everything. The night came heavy and slow. Daniel sat at the edge of his small dining table. The three alien women sitting quietly across from him. The single light above their heads flickered softly, throwing long shadows on the walls. No one spoke at first. Solara sat tall, her glowing eyes calm but guarded. Mira sat with her hands folded tight, trembling whenever the floor creaked. Lina leaned forward, her stare sharp and unblinking as if testing him. Daniel's head buzzed with questions. The letter, the soldiers, the drones, the forced marriage, none of it made sense. And yet the women were here in his home watching him, waiting for something he could not name. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "I need to know the truth," he said, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "Why are you here? What does the government want from me?" The women glanced at each other, their faces tight with fear. For a moment, Daniel thought they would stay silent forever. But then Solara lowered her voice and spoke. "They told us never to speak of the program, never to tell you the truth." Her words hung heavy in the air. Daniel leaned closer, refusing to let the silence win. "I don't care what they told you. I need answers, and if you don't tell me, I'll never be able to protect you." The word protect stirred something in Mira. Her eyes lifted, watery and afraid. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "No one ever tried to protect us before." Daniel's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" he asked gently. This time Lina spoke, her tone firm. "We are not wives, not in the way you understand. We were assigned, trained, controlled. Each of us belonged to someone else before you." Daniel froze, his hands tightening into fists. "Belonged?" He repeated, his voice sharp. Solara nodded slowly, her voice heavy. "Yes, we were property, traded between humans as if we were tools. We were told to obey, to smile, to serve. If we disobeyed..." She stopped, her jaw tightening, her glowing eyes flickering with anger and pain. Mira's trembling grew worse, and without thinking, Daniel reached across the table, resting his hand over hers. Her skin was warm, her pulse rapid. She flinched at first, but then let out a shaky breath, as if his touch carried safety she had never felt before. "They punished us," Mira whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. "With pain, with hunger, with silence, and when one of us failed, they replaced us with another." Daniel's blood turned cold. The government's integration wasn't about unity or peace, it was about ownership, control and fear. And now, he realized, he was inside their experiment, chosen without warning, forced into a role he never wanted outside. The faint hum of drones passed by again. The women lowered their voices even more, their words trembling with risk. Solara leaned closer, her voice low and urgent. "You must understand, husband. You are being watched. Every choice you make is judged. If you treat us like people, they will mark you as a traitor. If you treat us like property, they will reward you." Daniel's jaw tightened, fury building in his chest. "So I'm supposed to become their puppet? Treat you like objects just so I can stay safe?" Lina's eyes locked with his, sharp and burning. "That is the game they built, and the only way to win is to break it." The words hit him like lightning. Break it? How? He was one man against an entire system. A system that had drones, soldiers, and prisons, and yet, as he looked at the three women before him, the scars of obedience in their silence, the weight of chains in their eyes, he felt something stir inside him. A spark he hadn't felt in years. A spark of defiance. He stood slowly, walking to the window through the curtain. He saw the faint red glow of another drone, its lens flashing like a watchful eye. "They want me to play their game," Daniel muttered under his breath. "But maybe I don't have to." Behind him, Mira's soft voice rose again. "If you fight them, they will come for you. They will come for us, and no one survives once taken back." Daniel turned, his eyes sharp. "Then we don't give them the chance," he said. His words carried a new edge, the sound of someone ready to challenge the impossible. The women stared at him, surprise flickering in their glowing eyes. For the first time, Daniel didn't see only fear in them. He saw hope, faint but real. Lina tilted her head, studying him. "You are not like the others," she said quietly. "Maybe you truly can protect us." The moment stretched long, heavy with unspoken promises and unseen danger. The night deepened outside, the drones faded into the darkness. But Daniel knew the silence would not last. He had uncovered part of the truth, enough to know the program was built on chains and cruelty, But it was only the beginning. As the alien women settled uneasily in his home, Daniel sat awake, staring at the letter on his table. The bold words still burned in his mind. Government-issued wives, mandatory compliance. He clenched his fists, his jaw tight. This wasn't marriage, this wasn't love, this was slavery dressed as law. And if he wanted to survive, if he wanted them to survive, he would have to break every rule. The house was dark except for the faint yellow glow of the lamp in the living room. Daniel couldn't sleep, his thoughts kept spinning, circling around the letter, the soldiers, the drones, and the 3 alien women who now shared his home. He sat quietly near the window, watching the night. While the women rested in the other room, but rest was a fragile word for them, Solara lay still, but her glowing eyes stayed half open, always alert, always guarding. Mira curled into the corner of the couch like a frightened child, her body shivering even under the blanket, and Lina, she sat upright, her eyes fixed on Daniel through the shadows, watching him as if trying to read his soul. Daniel finally spoke, his voice breaking the silence. "You don't have to be afraid here," he said softly. Mira flinched, clutching the blanket tighter. Solara's gaze shifted toward him, cautious. Lina tilted her head, a faint trace of curiosity flickering in her glowing eyes. "Afraid is all we know," Solara finally whispered, her voice low, heavy with pain. "They taught us to obey, to never question, to never trust." Daniel leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "But you're not slaves here." "Not with me," he said firmly. The words hung in the air like fire. Dangerous and bold, Mira lifted her face, her eyes wet with tears. "You will get punished if you say that," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They hear everything. They see everything." At her words, Daniel felt the weight of the drones outside pressing against his chest. Yes, they were being watched, every word, every action judged, but still, something inside him refused to bend. He looked at them and spoke again, stronger this time. "I don't care who is listening, you are not property. You are people." The room grew silent, too silent for a moment. Even the hum of the night outside seemed to fade. Then Lina stood, stepping slowly toward him, her eyes locked on his. "You speak like no one else," she whispered, her voice soft but sharp. "Do you mean it, human? Or are these just words to trick us?" Daniel met her gaze without flinching. "I mean every word," he said, his tone steady. "I will not treat you the way they expect. You are free here, at least as free as I can make you." Something shifted in Lina's eyes. Something fragile and dangerous hope. Solara's shoulders softened slightly, her breath releasing in a quiet sigh, and Mira let out a small sob, the sound breaking like glass in the silence. Daniel moved closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. She trembled but didn't pull away. It was the first human touch she had felt without fear. Without demand, the bond, thin and fragile, had begun. But shadows were never far as the women slowly trusted his words. The sound of buzzing filled the night. Daniel moved to the window and saw it. Another drone, closer this time, its red eye glowing like a predator in the dark. "They're testing us," Solara said flatly, her voice low. "They want to see if you will play by their rules." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then let them see. Let them see I'm not their puppet." The drone hovered for a long moment, recording everything, before drifting away into the night. The house fell quiet again, but the silence was heavier than before. Solara rose from the couch, standing tall like a soldier. "We cannot survive if you fight the government. They are too powerful," she warned. Her voice carried no fear, only the weight of cold reality. Daniel looked at her, then at Mira's tear-stained face, then at Lina's searching eyes. "Maybe not," he admitted. "But if I don't fight, then what's the point of living?" His words struck something deep in them. For years they had lived only to obey, never to dream, never to hope. But now, in this small house, a man dared to speak differently. The night stretched on, and slowly, carefully, the women began to speak of things they had never told anyone. Mira told him about the hunger they endured when they disobeyed. Solara spoke of the scars hidden under her sleeves, punishments for defiance. And Lina revealed the cruel truth, that some of their husbands before Daniel had vanished, taken away by the same soldiers who brought them. Their fates unknown. Daniel listened, his jaw tight, his chest heavy with anger. Every word was another chain, another scar, another wound carved into their lives. And yet under that pain he saw strength. These women had survived horrors, and still they breathed, they endured. When the first light of dawn touched the window, Daniel made a silent vow in his heart. He would not let the government break them again. If he had to stand against the program, against the soldiers, even against the entire system, he would. The women watched him quietly, as if they could feel the storm building inside him. Solara finally spoke, her voice low but certain. Maybe we can trust you. Lena's lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile, and Mira, for the first time, closed her eyes without trembling, drifting into fragile sleep. The bond had begun in the shadows of fear, and though danger circled outside, inside the house something powerful had awakened. Not obedience, not control, something stronger, something the government never expected. The morning sun rose slow and pale, but Daniel's house did not feel bright. The air was heavy, pressing down like a storm waiting to break. Daniel stood near the window, peeking through the curtain, and there it was again. A drone hovering silently across the street, its red lens fixed on his house. It hadn't left since last night. It just floated there, buzzing faintly, like a silent predator circling its prey. Daniel's stomach tightened, his chest filled with anger. They're watching every move we make, he muttered under his breath. Behind him, Solara stood tall, her arms crossed. They always watch, she said, her tone calm but cold. This is the program. They are not here to protect you, they are here to test you. Mira sat at the dining table, her hands clutching the edge so tightly her knuckles turned pale. She looked small, fragile, her eyes darting toward the window every few seconds. I can feel them, she whispered, her voice trembling. Even when I can't see them, I know they're there. Lena, however, walked closer to Daniel, her glowing eyes fixed on the drone. She tilted her head slightly, almost mocking the machine. They want you to break, she said softly. They want to see if you'll treat us like property, or if you'll risk yourself by treating us like people. Daniel turned to face them, his jaw tight. And what if I refuse both? What if I don't play their game at all? Solara shook her head, her voice firm. Then they will come for you, and when they come, they will not stop. As if to answer her words, a loud metallic clatter echoed from the porch. Daniel rushed to the door and found another envelope dropped on his steps. The same government seal pressed into the paper. He opened it quickly, and the words inside made his blood run cold. Citizen Harper, your compliance is under review. Your assigned wives must be properly disciplined. Failure to demonstrate authority will result in reassignment and investigation. Do not resist the program. Do not attempt kindness. Your role is to control. Daniel crumpled the paper in his fist. His teeth gritted, every word was poison, every sentence a chain. He turned back to the women, who now stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. Mira's voice broke the silence. They will take us back, she whispered, tears filling her eyes. If they see you care, they will take us away. Her body shook, her fear raw as if she had seen it happen before. Daniel moved quickly to her side, kneeling beside her. I won't let them, he said firmly, his hand resting gently on hers, but even as he spoke, the sound of buzzing outside grew louder. More drones, at least 3, now circled his house, their red eyes glowing against the pale morning light. Solara stepped forward, her voice steady. You have to understand, they are not only watching, they are recording. Every kind word, every gentle act, it becomes evidence against you. Daniel clenched his fists, standing tall. So what do they want? Do they want me to hurt you? To treat you like animals just so I can survive? Lena's eyes burned as she answered. Yes, that is the program. That is the test. They reward cruelty, they punish mercy. Daniel's chest tightened, fury building inside him. He walked to the window, staring directly at the nearest drone. Well, let them punish me then, he muttered, his voice sharp. They can't control what's in my heart. The women stared at him, their glowing eyes reflecting shock and something else, hope. For the first time, someone had spoken against the system openly, without fear, but the danger grew heavier with every second. Another knock shook the door, hard and sharp. Daniel opened it slowly, finding a soldier standing there, his face cold, his eyes hidden behind dark lenses. Citizen Harper, the soldier said flatly, your compliance is in question. Do not forget, your actions are monitored, fail, and consequences will be severe. Without waiting for an answer, the soldier turned and walked away, his boots striking the pavement like thunder. Daniel closed the door, his pulse racing. He looked back at Solara, Mira and Lena, their faces pale, their bodies tense. The truth was clear. The government wasn't just watching, it was closing in. That night, the pressure inside the house grew unbearable. Every sound outside made Mira jump. Every shadow made Solara tense. And every time Daniel looked at Lena, he saw her eyes burning with unspoken words. Finally, she stepped closer, whispering, "They want to break you, human. They want to break us all, but if you stay strong, maybe, just maybe, we can break them instead." Her words lit a spark in him. He didn't know how, he didn't know when. But as the drone circled above and the shadows pressed closer, Daniel made a silent vow. He would not bow to their watchful eyes, even if it cost him everything. The night air was thick with silence. Outside, drones circled the sky like vultures, their red eyes flashing as they scanned Daniel's home. Inside, Daniel sat at the table, the government letter still crumpled in his hand. The words burned in his mind. Discipline them, or face punishment. He slammed his fist against the table, the sound startling Mira, who let out a soft cry. Solara moved quickly, placing herself in front of Mira as if to shield her. Lena only stared at him, her glowing eyes sharp, testing his resolve. "I can't do this anymore," Daniel said, his voice rough with anger. "I won't let them turn me into their monster." Solara's face hardened. "You don't understand. Human, if you defy them, they will destroy you. They will take us back." Her words carried warning, but also a hidden plea: "Don't risk yourself." But Daniel shook his head, standing tall. "No, if I give in, if I hurt you just to save myself, then I'm already destroyed." He looked at Mira, still trembling, and added softly, "And I won't let them hurt you again." A deep silence followed. The women exchanged glances, their glowing eyes flickering with doubt and fragile hope. Lena stepped forward, closer than ever before. Her voice was sharp but trembling. "Do you even know what you're saying, human? Do you know what happens to those who resist?" Daniel met her gaze without fear. "Then tell me," he said, his tone firm. "Tell me what they've done to the others." The room fell cold. Mira's voice broke the silence, so soft it was almost a whisper. "They chained them. They dragged them away in the night, and no one saw them again." Her tears ran freely now, each drop a scar of memory, Solara added, her voice flat but heavy. "They call it reassignment, but it is not. It is erasure." Her glowing eyes hardened. "They erase anyone who resists. They erase the wives who hope. They erase the men who dare to care." Daniel's fists tightened until his knuckles turned white. He turned toward the window, staring at the red glow of the nearest drone. "So that's the truth," he said under his breath. "They don't want families. They don't want peace. They want obedience." His voice grew stronger. "Then it's time to stop obeying." The women stiffened at his words. Mira gasped. Solara's jaw tightened and Lena's lips curved into the faintest trace of a daring smile. "You mean escape?" Lena whispered, her tone both mocking and hopeful. Daniel nodded. "Yes, escape. We can't live under their eyes, under their chains. We have to break free." Solara stepped forward quickly, her voice sharp. "Do you hear yourself? Escape is impossible. They watch every door, every street, every breath we take." Her words carried truth, but Daniel saw the fear behind them. The fear beaten into her for years, maybe, Daniel said calmly. "But chains only hold if you let them, and I won't let them anymore." The house grew still. The only sound was the faint hum of drones outside, circling like wolves. Then Lena leaned closer, her glowing eyes burning bright. "If you fight, human, you'll need us," she whispered. "We are not as weak as they want you to believe." Her words carried weight, and for the first time Daniel realized they weren't just victims. They had strength hidden beneath the scars. They had survived horrors he could only imagine. And survival itself was a kind of weapon. Daniel looked at each of them in turn, his voice steady. "Then we fight together, we plan, we wait, and when the time comes, we run." Mira's tears slowed, her trembling easing as she whispered, "Together?" "Yes," Daniel said firmly. "Together." The moment hung in the air like a spark in the dark. A fragile bond, but real, forged in fear, anger, and something new, hope. That night, as the drones circled above, Daniel began to plan. He mapped the house in his mind, every door, every window. He thought of the woods behind the neighborhood, the old road that no one used anymore. If they could reach it, maybe they could vanish before the government closed its fist. But the risk was heavy, one mistake, one wrong move, and they would all be gone, erased like the others. Still, when Daniel looked at Solara's guarded strength, Mira's fragile hope, and Lena's burning defiance, he knew there was no turning back. The chains had been placed on his life without his choice, but he could still choose to break them. The night grew colder. Shadows stretched across the floor. The women finally drifted into uneasy sleep. But Daniel stayed awake, his eyes fixed on the dark window, his mind burning with one thought. They think they own us, they think they can control us. But they're wrong. The drones hummed above, circling like hunters, but inside the small house, a different fire had been lit, a fire of defiance, of rebellion, of a bond too strong for chains to hold. The night was restless. Drones circled above Daniel's house like vultures in the dark sky, their red eyes glowing through the curtains. Inside, the air was tight with fear and determination. Daniel sat at the table, his fists clenched, his heart beating like a drum. Across from him, Solara stood tall. Mira sat trembling, and Lina's glowing eyes never left his face. They all knew the truth now. There was no safe life under the program. There was only obedience or resistance, slavery or freedom. Daniel finally spoke, his voice cutting through the silence. We can't wait any longer if we stay. They'll erase us like the others if we run. Maybe we have a chance. Solara's eyes narrowed. You don't know what you're saying, human. If we step outside those doors, they'll hunt us like animals. Her words carried truth, her tone steady. But behind her calmness was fear. Fear carved into her soul by years of chains. Mira's soft voice trembled. I don't want to be taken back, she whispered, tears shining in her glowing eyes. Her hands clutched Daniel's sleeve, desperate, fragile. Please, I'll follow you anywhere. Just don't let them take me back. Daniel rested his hand gently over hers. I won't, he said firmly. I promise you. I won't, Lina stepped forward, her gaze sharp, almost daring. Then we run, she said, her lips curving into the faintest smile. We fight, we break their chains. We show them we're not toys. The decision was made in that moment, not with a plan, not with a map. But with fire in their hearts, they would not live as property. Not under watchful eyes, Daniel moved quickly, gathering what little supplies he had. Water, bread, a flashlight, an old jacket. He handed Mira the blanket she loved clutching, wrapped it around her shoulders. Solara took a knife from the kitchen drawer. Holding it steady in her hand, Lina grabbed Daniel's arm, her eyes glowing bright with defiance. Tonight, she said. Or never. The sound of drones outside grew louder, as if the government already sensed rebellion. Daniel opened the back door slowly, the cool night air rushing in. The forest loomed behind the neighborhood. Dark and endless, that was their only chance. Stay close, Daniel whispered. The women nodded, their glowing eyes shining faintly in the dark. They slipped outside, moving quickly across the yard, their feet silent on the grass. Every second felt like a blade against Daniel's throat. The drones buzzed overhead, searching, scanning, their red lights sweeping across the ground. Down, Solara hissed, pushing Mira to the ground as a beam of light swept past. Daniel pulled Lina close, holding her still until the drone drifted away. His heart hammered in his chest, but they kept moving, step by step. Deeper into the shadows of the trees, the forest swallowed them, the branches whispering above like ancient voices. For a moment it felt like freedom, no fences, no orders, no glowing red eyes, but it didn't last. A sharp sound cut through the night, engines heavy and fast, approaching the street they had just left. Government trucks, headlights piercing the dark, soldiers spilling out with weapons in their hands. They know, Mira cried softly, her voice breaking. Solara gripped her knife tighter, her glowing eyes fierce. They always know, she muttered. Daniel grabbed Mira's hand and pulled her forward. Run, he shouted, his voice echoing through the forest. They ran, branches clawing at their clothes, roots catching their feet. Behind them, searchlights cut through the trees, soldiers shouting orders, drones buzzing closer. Daniel's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. He could hear Mira's sobs, Solara's steady breaths, Lina's determined steps at his side. They weren't just running for their lives, they were running for their freedom. At last they reached an old, broken road hidden deep in the woods. Daniel stopped, his chest heaving, his eyes scanning the shadows. This way, he said, pointing toward the abandoned path. If we follow it, we can lose them. But before they could move, a beam of light burst through the trees. A soldier stepped forward, his weapon raised. Stop right there, he barked. Daniel froze, the women huddled close behind him. The soldier's finger tightened on the trigger. And in that split second, Daniel made his choice. He stepped forward, his voice loud, strong, and defiant. No!
They are not yours,
he shouted. You don't own them. Not anymore. The soldier hesitated, stunned by his words. Solara moved like lightning, slamming her knife against the soldier's weapon. Knocking it aside, the man stumbled and Daniel lunged, tackling him to the ground. "Run!" Daniel roared. The women obeyed, sprinting down the broken road, their glowing eyes cutting through the dark. Daniel fought hard, his fists fueled by fury and fire. The soldier fell silent and Daniel staggered to his feet. Chasing after the women, they disappeared into the night together, the shouts of soldiers fading behind them. Their future was uncertain, their lives hanging by a thread. But one thing was clear. Daniel had chosen. He had chosen freedom over fear, love over obedience, defiance over chains, and in that choice he had set fire to the program itself. The government's experiment was no longer under control, because one man, one human, had dared to say, "No one owns you, not anymore."